I'm standing outside of Park Station in the neighborhood of Parc X today.
The neighborhood of Parc was annexed into Montreal in the year 1910. It was considered an undesirable neighborhood due to its proximity to the Outremont train yard and difficulty reaching downtown due to it being hemmed in by train tracks, as a result causing it to grow later than many nearby neighborhoods. Growth didn't really begin until after the arrival of the curb streetcar in 1921, and only really took off after the Second World War, aided by new 1930s infrastructure projects like the building of Park Station and the Park Avenue underpass. Many of the early residents of the neighborhood were new immigrants, something which would become a theme for the neighborhood later on. Early on, they were typically working-class Protestants from the British Isles for whom the cheaper land and proximity to railroads for work were appealing. Parallels can be drawn to many other working-class Montreal neighborhoods which grew at a similar time, like Saint-Henri. However, Parc X was notably more isolated due to the railroads and even more impermeable TMR, which at its inception could only be accessed from Parc X at Avenue Cremency.
Parc X's identity has always been defined through its large immigrant community. Although not much remains of this early wave of immigrants, later waves are much more noticeable through their many restaurants.
70% of Greek immigrants came to Parc X through the years 1956 to 1970. You can see this because in the year 1980, Greek was the mother tongue of 53% of Parc X. A great way to see how much the visual identity and the culture of the neighborhood changed in that era is through restaurants from then that still remain today. A great example of this is Aphrodite, a restaurant that opened up in 1971, maybe the peak of Greek immigration. They are a family-owned business and sell lots of traditional Greek foods. Let's go inside and take a bite.
As mentioned by Shanazi, the demographic makeup of Parc X began to change in the 1970s and has since started to welcome large numbers of immigrants coming in largely from South and Southeast Asia. This demographic shift is reflected in changing building facades, murals, signs of use, and most importantly, a large and diverse number of South Asian institutions to eat at. Along the neighborhood's major paths like Rue Jean Talon and Saint-Roch, Parc X's South Asian community shines through its ethnic, culinary, and religious diversity.
While through the majority of this video we have been located in Parc X, where I'm standing now is considered Mile X. This area was coined in 2012 due to the opening of a restaurant called Mile X, which signified the joining of the Parc X and Mile End neighborhood. This name has come into further discourse through the opening of the Université de Montréal MIL campus. This campus opened in 2019, and with it, it has brought an influx of more expensive tenants that have led to increased rent in the area. This has displaced immigrant community members that have constantly lived here, and this history can now be, or this legacy can now be seen in the physical landscape of the area. I'm now in front of one of these areas. Even though this area has not been significantly developed, openings of restaurants like Segrada as well as Pignon Rouge are signifiers that this area is changing in its demographics of who it's trying to cater to. Parc X's changing landscape has been captured throughout the walk that we just took, which shows how the different populations have moved across time. But this is not just captured in the physical landscape, it's also captured in the political landscape of Montreal and wider Canada. With the election of new Mayor Soraya, who promises to help with more affordable housing in Montreal, though she backs pretty large business developments, it's hard to know what is going to be protected in the rights of Montrealers. Another thing is that Bill 2, or Bill 12, which was previously known as Bill 2, makes it harder for immigrants to stay as long-term residents in Canada. While this is Parc X's history, it doesn't need to stop here. It's important to remember who has consistently made up the community and who makes up Parc X.